On to our politicians then. Sir Keir Starmer's premiership, they're saying, could be under threat, as Labour MPs are themselves reportedly plotting against his leadership.
This all comes despite the Prime Minister's recent efforts to engage more with his colleagues behind closed doors.
And of course then elsewhere you've got the Chancellor, who's set to announce a stealth tax raid on retirement savings in her budget.
Experts warn it could reduce the size of pension pots and cut net income.
So there's so much to look forward to. Editor of Spiked, Tom Slater, is still with us. Can we look at... we were talking about what might be in the budget earlier. What about Keir Starmer and his position? Because we are being fed these lines that apparently his own political... in fact, newbies, people who are only in Parliament because of him, I suppose,
and the landslide
are plotting against him.
I mean, this is incredible. The fact that he won such a sizable majority, albeit being that loveless landslide with quite wide support but quite shallow. The fact that that was just last summer, and yet now he has so little authority, not just in the country, which we already see in the opinion polls. He's the most unpopular serving Prime Minister since the pollsters bothered to ask the question. But also he's incapable of projecting any authority within his own party. As you rightly say, Anne, many of these MPs, newbie MPs, they used to be referred to and nicknamed the Stormtroopers, selected precisely for their loyalty because of the fact that they were seen as bought into this project of making Labour more, quote-unquote, centrist and electable again. And yet these seem to be the very people who are getting a bit restless. These are people who are in Parliament for the first time, don't want it to be the only time that they'll be there. And so, quite understandably, are wondering if the man at the top is the problem. I think the issue is it's kind of the blind leading the blind to a certain extent. There is no clear alternative. There's not even necessarily someone who is waiting in the wings. In the story in the iPaper, Kitty Donaldson's report, she talks about that according to internal Labour Party polling, the only potential candidate who might tickle the fancy of the voters is Andy Burnham. He's not even in Westminster. So it's one of those things where...
But it wouldn't be difficult for him to get into
Not at all. All you need
because he's mayor. I know he's mayor.
No, I would have thought it would be very difficult because the minute he stands for any seat, Reform will target him. They will not let him win. Wherever he stands.
And even though if they could find some, there'd be a by-election in a very safe Labour seat, it's still the sort of thing where that road is a little bit rockier than it might seem, as you suggest. But there's also the fact that this is, if Andy Burnham wants to make his return to Westminster and to make a bid for the leadership, he needs more time than the kind of timescales we're talking about here. I mean, in this report, they're talking about maybe moving against him after the May local election. So it's one of those things where you can understand the desperation. It really is not going well, to put it lightly. But at the same time, Labour lacks any viable alternative.
What about Wes Streeting?
Well, Wes Streeting, I think, is playing an interesting game as far as there is no secret about his leadership ambitions, but he's tried to walk that line of seeming very loyal to Keir Starmer, but at the same time being willing to say where things are going wrong. I just don't think that it was... The person who's going to be leader after Keir Starmer is probably not going to have a tremendous inheritance. So I wonder, with someone like him who does have those ambitions, whether the leadership is something that he'd rather... go for in a few years' time.
Your personal data could be exposed right now without you even knowing it. And if you want it removed, use incogni.com/GBNews in the description now and get 60% off an annual plan on us. Incogni reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information be deleted from their databases. And they'll keep sending removal requests to make sure your data stays gone. Sometimes your information ends up on strange, obscure websites that automated tools just can't reach. And that's why Incogni just launched their unlimited plan with a feature called Custom Removals. With this, you can submit any link where your personal information appears, literally paste in the URL, and their privacy team will investigate and work to get it removed. And getting started is super easy. Hit the link in the description, create an Incogni account, and tell them whose data you want removed. Grant them permission to work on your behalf, and then all you've got to do is sit back and relax. They'll keep you updated along the way. Incogni is totally risk-free for 30 days. If you try it, it's not for you, you'll get a full refund. So take back control of your personal data today with Incogni. Use our code GBNews at checkout via the link in the description, and you'll get 60% off an annual plan.
Except if you're going to do it, you need to do it now. So you've actually got time to actually do something rather than leaving it when it's too late to do anything. Surely, would that not be? Or am I just being an idiot?
I can't see that. They've got to stick with him, I think, haven't they?
I mean, again, I think that's his only card to play at this point, is the fact that what is the
There's
alternative?
nobody better.
Yeah, there's no king over
That's
the water.
awful that there's nobody better. Is there really nobody else?
That's one thing about politicians, and certainly the two main parties over the course of the past decade or so, the dearth of political talent is really quite striking. I mean, I think politics is about more than just being a good manager or a charismatic leader. You need to have substance, you need to have principles, and so on and so forth. The politicians we've got at the moment seem to have neither a lot of the time. They're neither particularly impressive, nor do they have much to say for themselves.
And wasn't that the whole point about Sir Keir Starmer, is the fact that his very, sort of, not to put too fine on it, but the fact that he was a bit boring actually stood him in good stead. Because
not anymore.
But not anymore. But that's the problem, and we don't. You just wonder why they didn't get in and do something really kind of big. They had the mandate. They could have gone in there and done something.
And also that was precisely the pitch, was that the Tories made a mess of this, partly because they're just bad people, but also because they're incompetent. We are incredibly competent. I used to run the CPS, don't you know? I know how to run an organisation. We are the technocrats. But everything they touch just turns to ash. And it's one of those things where, obviously, these problems predate the Labour government. The British state is in a terrible way. Ministers get in, they pull levers, nothing happens. That's been a big problem for a long time. But when you made your whole pitch on we're here to clean up the mess, we're here to sort out these problems, and yet all you seem to do is produce more problems, then the electorate are going to turn on you quite quickly.
And there was that survey, of course, yesterday, wasn't there, saying that everybody in the country feels so low and really very depressed at the state of the country, and that it's never been like this before. Let's start, Kevin, with the idea. It must be very uncomfortable in the Commons at the moment for Keir Starmer, because wherever he walks, people are whispering about him.
Yeah, well, and they are, and they're more than happy to speak to journalists about it as well. Now, the advent of text messaging means that you don't have to find a quiet corner, they can just text you. But when they're speaking to one another, the MPs, in the bars and in the smoking room and in the tea room.
There is actually a smoking room still?
Yeah.
You can't smoke in it then?
Well, I'm not allowed in it because it's only for MPs, so I'm guessing not.
No, you can't, because it's illegal.
We're not allowed to, but it's known as the smoking room.
Okay, yes,
they love nothing better. When they should be maybe running the country, might explain why public services aren't very good, but they're spending all their time at the moment, Labour MPs, plotting against
their own leader.
The guy who led them to a landslide victory 18 months ago. Not even 18 months ago.
I was going to say, it's not here.
Less than 18 months ago. And it is a live debate. Now, some actually think he could be gone by Christmas. Which
no, surely.
I think is highly unlikely. But their fear is that the budget on the 26th of November will be so bad that the whole thing will just collapse.
If Angela Rayner hadn't had to go, do we think that would have meant it was more likely that he would be moved because she was far more poised and probably hungrier for it? Would that have been more likely?
Because that's a good point,
because now it's a case of be careful what you wish for, isn't it? You might want to see the back of Starmer, but who would step in would be my fear.
I mean, Ed Miliband's name's been mentioned.
Sorry.
Well, that's a pretty common reaction when you say that. So a lot of people, because we had the opportunity to make him Prime Minister in 2015 and said no thanks.
Well, they couldn't decide between him and his brother, though, could they? And if they couldn't decide between him and his brother, I didn't see why I should have to.
Yeah,